like we have a lot of motivational speakers. There's a lot of motivation going on, a lot of talking. If I can talk you out of your dream just by presenting like data and facts based on history, it may not be your true calling. If it's something that you really love, you can't go a day without thinking about, you'll find a way.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Today for Tomorrow podcast. We are super excited you are here today. Look, if you can't tell, we got some fancy gear on right now. So before we jump into it, could you tell us about what we wear?
Hey, we are wearing Man 2.0 next level manhood gear. Myself got that on. You see, you got red, black. We'll have different colors of that as well too. But that's Man 2.0 second Saturday every month. We talk about it every time. Want the men to come out, 10 a.m. Check us out. And then Martell has on Freedom in Christ ministry gear. Once again, on the back of that, it's like, hey, talking about teach, equip, and serve. That's what we do. So, hey, just a little plug. But come check us out. Find out what we're doing.
Now that you know that, definitely tune in. We've got all the information for FIC Men 2.0 that is in the description. But for this episode, we are going to be talking about something that I believe Mike brought up in the chat. You want to go ahead and bring us into it?
Yeah. So this is a conversation that I think about often, actually, because I tend to have a lot of conversations with people that once they find out I'm a full-time entrepreneur, they start telling me about their dreams and what they want to do. And my thing is, I always want to lead with encouragement. So I'm like, tell me more, let me understand. However, during some of these conversations, I do have quick snippets of, I look at my reality and I'll kind of unpack that, where to me, when you're expecting to get a outcome, you have to have the correct inputs, right? So when we're talking about like a money conversation, the funny thing is, a lot of people in our community, I find, we want to create something just brand new. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I got a really great idea. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I don't know. Maybe, I don't know what God's put in your heart. Maybe that could work. Mm-hmm. But the way I always looked at it is, I'm going to find something that's proven to work. Yeah. I'm going to study that and then work backwards to reverse engineer. So if I do similar inputs, I should be able to get the same output. Yeah. So long story short, the title is a DE-motivational speech. Whereas, most of us, we've heard the traditional motivational. I feel like we have a lot of motivational speakers. Yeah.
We got enough.
We have a little bit, maybe too much, to be honest, because it's a lot of motivation going on, a lot of talking. And me personally, I'm just more of a action person. I think motivation can get you so far. Yeah. And then you got to actually have some results. So when I say a DE-motivational speech, it's more so having a healthy conversation where you level set with someone and just allow them to understand and make their mistakes. What they may find is what they thought was their dream may just be a pit stop on the way to their true calling.
I think that's a good point, though, about the maybe the oversaturation of the motivational speaking space. Because, like, we know, like, the big dogs out there, like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar back in the day. We got E.T. today, all of them, Inky, the whole nine. But, like, what you guys probably don't see is, like, there's a whole nother sector of the motivational space with these people who have, like SMMA, like social media marketing agencies, and like there's a ginormous group of teenagers right now that are all trying to have their bodies be like not big, but like very defined. And then they want to build these businesses, or they think they kind of want to build these businesses, but this whole society is just surrounded about like personal development, and they go to extremes with it. Like, it's almost like a fraternity. But they're all like, oh man, we got to be better. We got to mentally be tough, and we got to do these things. And they go work out together, and they go run together, and they go do all this. And they talk about doing business all the time. They always talk about doing business. But that's about it. That's the end of it.
It's a lot of talk.
It's a lot of talk.
The thing that this whole topic, when Mike brought it up, and And even you talking about that, I'm like, wow, the demotivation piece is like counter to it. It's counter to what you would think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't even think like, what does that mean? You know, they might kind of lay it out, but it's almost like, you know, somebody who's they could be telling you the truth, but it could be going against what your dream. Meaning that, you know, I want to be a race car driver. I shared that with you guys before. Growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a race car driver. But growing up in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, you don't see any NASCAR drivers. I have yet to ever meet one that came from the south side of Chicago or even hear about it. Mm-hmm. So at some point I had to have that, somebody had to give me that demotivation speech to say, look, Rodney, this ain't for you. You know, you ain't gonna be able to race around these blocks. You know, you ain't gonna be able to get the training you need to be a NASCAR driver on the south side of Chicago. Now, shame on me in this respect that I allowed them to squash my dream, because I could still do it if I really, to the point about not talk about it and start working towards it. You know what I'm saying?
That's a great point. And one thing that I always tell people is, if I can talk you out of your dream, what your so-called dream is, just by presenting like data and facts based on history, it may not be your true calling. Because if it's something that you really love, you can't go a day without thinking about, you'll find a way, right? So for example, I had a similar experience. I think everybody will probably be able to relate at some point. You know, hey, as kids, we start with these great imaginations and these great dreams. For me, I loved basketball, which is, well, most people that know me, they know me as a former football player. The thing is, I love basketball. I used to play basketball all day. At some point, I was given a demotivational speech. Listen, you're okay in basketball, but you probably never gonna make it. But in football, I was just more aligned where it just made more sense. So then I ended up shifting my goals into football. But even with that, I got to a certain point. I mean, I had, you know, a certain level of success, but got to a certain point. It wasn't until I stopped playing football, which I thought was my thing, to where I found my true calling, which was business and impacting the youth.
So actually, my mom, I think she is probably the master of demotivational speeches. Like, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like, I remember, like, when I was younger, and you know, when I say that, it's always like
his relative.
He's kind of already there, but he's still there. But my mom, like, I used to say stuff like, I remember coming home from school, college one time, and I'm like, I've been telling everybody, like, I was kind of joking, but I was also kind of serious. Like, I'm going to run for president, and I'm going to be the president of the United States, year 2056. Expect me to run in the year 2056. And then I remember, like, now, there's also a lot of issues that came from this kind of thing. But at this point, I was a little bit more mature, so I could just, you know, let it roll off. But, like, at this point, when she was like, okay, that's cool. Maybe you'll just be like the mayor or something. But the president, I don't know. Like, how dare you? How dare you even?
Wait, maybe you be the mayor. She didn't even say governor. It's
right, the mayor. How disrespectful is this? My own mom don't even believe in my dream. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But it was always, but also too, her being able to do that, her doing that, was something that I wouldn't get often. And so it would always kind of level set, but it would also motivate me too. Yeah. And I don't know if that's common, but like when she would say something like that to me, I'm like, oh, you think I'm gonna be the mayor, huh? Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna be the president just because of that.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Now I was gonna say, that's an important point though. Like whenever you're doing any type of coaching, parenting, mentoring, you have to be able to gauge the kid or the person, how they receive information. Because we used to say, like, coaching sports, for example, when I was coming up, everybody got the old school approach. Everybody was a demotivator. I'm talking about coaches. That's how they felt, I'm gonna bring that dog out of you. And somebody like myself, I'm just like you. Okay, you think I can't do it? That's gonna make me want to work harder. But some people, you can actually kill their dreams. You can disrupt their self-esteem. And I think in this generation of kids and young people, not even just kids, just young adults or older adults, people are a lot more fragile.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that as a people, we're trying to figure out how to adjust in real time and deal with people. But we didn't have those, a lot of us didn't have those tools in our toolbox.
No, real talk. Our family probably give us the most demotivational speeches. You know what I mean? And partly because, they looking at life through a lens that, hey, this is what's happened in the past. Like you talk about all that information, they register, okay, hey, first of all, hey, you black. Second, it's like, we had, I don't know if that conversation happened before we had a black president, but then two, the current
Obama
state.
was in, I think.
Yeah, the current state of situations right now. All this is registering, and that person's like looking at like, for one, in their mind, they're like, maybe they don't want you to be president because of the drama. Or maybe they call themselves sparing you from the pain that goes into doing that. But I gotta, I'm just thinking about my parents, love me and all that. But the point though is that some of the things, they were like my first demotivational speeches, right? That I don't. They didn't come out. I don't think that's for you. You know what I'm saying? And to the point you made and what you made too is that becomes motivation. Like, it's like for us, and I think we all kind of wired the same way. Okay, I can't do that. All right, but okay, let me. You know what?
Noted.
You gonna make me work. I'm going to knock it out the park just because you said that. You know what I'm saying? But that's not that don't work for everybody.
See, we're talking about this. There's two different sides of this. There's the coach who is talking to you because they've got experience in the thing that you're talking about, right? And they know what it's going to take.
Yeah.
So they're literally telling you just this raw truth. Like, look, homie, you might think it's all going to be a walk in the park, but I'm here to tell you that this is what it's going to require. If you're willing to do this, then you're going to be fine. But just know that this might not be the thing that they told you yet, but this is the reality because I've been there. Yeah. But then on the other side, we've got, there are people who are like, haven't done it. And they're like, well, I've gone through some things. I don't think you're going to make it because I just don't think it'd be your thing. And it kind of sometimes when that happens is they're kind of projecting. It's like, I've seen people try that thing and I don't think you better than them. Or I've tried this thing and I didn't make it. So there's no way you gonna make it. And that's a different side. That's a different side of this.
That's important to unpack a little bit also, because demotivational speeches or even motivational speeches, a lot of times what I always have done is I listen to what people tell me, but I go by that old quote that your actions are so loud, I can barely hear what you're telling me because I'm watching your life. And if I tell someone, that's another thing. You got to be careful about who you share your dreams with.
Yes.
Because if you share big, huge ideas with small-minded people, they'll always crush. They'll look for reasons of why it won't work. And it's not that it won't.
Mike, you need to say that again. People need to understand that's a nugget.
Yeah. If you be careful who you share your dreams and thoughts with, because if you share big dreams with small-minded people, they're never going to understand how or why that could work. So it's not that what they're telling you is wrong, because from their perspective, that's how their brain works. They're wired that way. Every solution, they're coming up with another problem. You know what I'm saying? And these type of scenarios where you may have to, be respectful, but you got to find other people. For one, people that have maybe been in these arenas that you're trying to go to. Then others, I know certain people that I call, it doesn't matter what the situation is, I know who's going to energize me. And those are people that you got to call. And on the flip side, it's certain people that you call, and it could be family. They're going to zap some of your energy. It doesn't matter what y'all talking about. It's a part of the business. And so really the point that I wanted to make is just, we have to be very aware of who, what, and where we're bringing these conversations to.
And the heart of the person who's giving it. Because like for me, you might hear that and say, oh, well, you shouldn't share your dreams with your mom because she's gonna just shut them down. But to me, I'm gonna go to her first because I know that, you know, I might talk to some people and a whole, like, you know, for example, during high school, man, like I was in track, I was in football, I was doing good. I was doing really good, like grades off the chart. So I would talk to, like, say, a teacher that was, you know, close. And everything that I said was, yes, you've got it. Great idea. Keep going. Yeah. And it's like, they never gave me any sort of like, well, did you think about this? Or I don't know if you really thought that one all the way through. And then sometimes I go to my mom would be like, what?
Yeah. And for the record, we love Mom. Mom, if you're watching, that's not what I'm saying. I want him to go to you first. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, because I would go to my mom. I'm gonna go to my mom because she's gonna have me think about it a little bit deeper, and that's what I appreciate the most. Because if I say I'm gonna be the president of the United States, and she says, at this point, from what I've seen right now, maybe the mayor, but also, too, if I actually just don't get offended and just ask her about why she said that, she might say, well, we don't have anybody who's in any sort of politics around us. We have no connections in that area. I don't know. You have no experience or training in that. You're not even interested in anything law related. So maybe the mayor, if you just start today. Yeah. So it's different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I'm glad you said that because I'm at that point, because Mike talked about how, you know, getting counsel from those who gonna like support, kind of give you that energy, that motivation to go. But then, like what you just talked about, you need that other side too sometimes. This time you need to understand, have somebody give it to you and tell you the other side. Because it gives, not that it's gonna change your mind. You go into it knowing this person's gonna probably not be saying this is for me, you know, but you need to understand why they're saying it. Because those are, I guess, ideas where you gotta like, okay, is that right? Oh, yeah, that is right. I need to work on that. Because you need to knock those things down if you're going to make that goal. You know what I mean?
You know, I'm always thinking about, all right, you know, how did this apply in my real life? And so I had a professor named Professor in Honor Cap that kind of came to my mind. And I remember going through a scenario with him when I was in college. So I'm about maybe 20 years old. And I think the exact conversation was, I wanted to switch my major into like sports broadcasting or something. And what he did was, it's called the Socratic methodology of teaching. Okay. He said, okay, cool, like tell me more. He allowed me to express myself, give, you know, reasons of why I felt like that was a good scenario. And then he would ask more questions. Okay, so if we went down this path, how would this look like 5 years? What would we need to do? And he would send me on my way to go find more information. He's like, when you get those answers, come back to me, you know, in a few weeks. And every time I came back with more, you know, what I thought were solutions to his questions, he would ask more questions. And it got to the point where I'm like, man, you know what? I didn't consider, you know, this, or I didn't consider that. I end up making a decision saying, you know what, I think I want to go back into this other area. He's like, oh, okay, now let's go down that path. And that was the path that was more promising for me anyways. But he allowed me to make, you know, with my mind, I thought I was making my own decision, but he was kind of just putting up the guardrails to make sure that I wasn't making a decision that would be detrimental.
Gotcha.
And I thought that was just really cool, but it's called the Socratic method of teaching.
No, I like that. I mean, I'm glad he did that. And I'm glad, because truthfully, what he did is what we all should do.
Yeah.
Be truthful. Because we shouldn't necessarily be that demotivational speaker. And motivating people is good. If you believe in what they're doing, you believe in what they're doing, yeah, you want to motivate them. But I think in some ways that he was motivating you because he didn't shoot it down. He was giving you, hey, go seek. These are questions that you might want to go get answers to and let you kind of work it out.
I mean, that's how you learn. You learn through questions. You find when you do something, like you always run into a problem that makes you have to think a little bit more about like, okay, how do I get around this, over this, through this? Should I just break it down? Like how in the world am I supposed to move past this thing? And that causes questions to be asked. And then once you find those answers, you become wiser. You know, it builds up that experience. And so I think like the best mentors and coaches are people who have gone or have enough experience to be able to ask you the questions that are going to make you think about the thing you haven't thought about. We call that inception. Okay. And that's exactly what was happening here. So it's like, man, you tell me that you want, for example, like I'm in marketing, right? When someone comes to me and they say like, oh man, so like I got an Instagram and we're trying to get this thing to 1 million followers by next week. So I'm gonna ask some questions. I'm gonna ask some questions about this whole situation, this goal that they've got. And in my questioning, I'm gonna try to kind of get them to understand a few fundamentals that I know. Yeah. And then if they don't understand these things, then it kind of lets me know where they are in this whole process of doing that particular thing. And so by me asking them, then what you kind of realize is that like, oh, since they know that they don't have an answer to this question that I just asked, now they start to think about it. Now they go home and they're like, they start to, you know what, he asked me this thing earlier today. I ain't never thought about it like that. And then they start doing that research. And then it's like, oh, okay, that's why he was asking that question. Now I can actually put a more realistic goal out.
And you know, and we talking about this right now from what I call a big dream standpoint. But what we're talking about applies to every dream we have, in a sense. I mean, because you know, it could be small, and you still got people like, nah, you can't do that. Like, you know, I'm gonna jump over. I mean, as a kid, I remember, you know, I can jump over that puddle. No, you can't.
No, you can't.
You know what I mean?
Right, you ain't about to do it.
No, you can't. You can't do it. You know, you can't do it. And then sometimes what happens? One kid ain't gonna try it. Like for me, I can do it. I'm gonna show you I can do it. And then if I don't make it, then I'm like, okay, well, I need to go jump more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you know, just to bring it into the whole spiritual aspect, what I thought about with this title was Jeremiah 29:11. You know, you have an overarching plan for your life, everybody, right? Our job is to figure out through experience what that plan is. You have to be willing to make mistakes. Your experience is really your best teacher. And really, you learn the most from your losses. You know, when things don't seem to be going your way, or you feel like, man, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe it's not, but maybe you had to go far along enough that path to set you on your greater path. And you wouldn't have known that in the beginning had you not committed all your resources to that. And then you saw a pivot point that put you on what ended up being your greater path.
To get back, that demotivational speech, I think it reminds me, and I've said this before, but it reminds me of a quote that I heard. Who said it? I think it was Dr. Miles Monroe. When I think he was a message that was about faith. And he pretty much said, like, if God really told you, like, everything that was going to be required for you to do exactly what I called you to do, then you probably wouldn't even start. Probably wouldn't even start. I mean, think about, I believe Joshua and what he was, the dream that he told his brothers. He said, look, y'all. Joseph, my bad. Joseph. So he told his brothers the dream, but there's no way he could have known as a kid that he was going to have to be in Potiphar's house. There was no, he didn't know his brothers was going to try to kill him. There was no possible way he could have known that, but he went anyway. He held on to that dream. He got to the point where he actually made it through there, but that was not the next day. It wasn't the next week, month. I'm sure it wasn't the next year. It was a long road before he could actually realize the vision that God put on his life. And I believe it's the same thing for everybody.
You're right. You know? And I'm so glad, like, went to that scripture, and I'm so glad you kind of used that example. But, you know, throughout the Bible, like you said, spiritually, there's a crazy number of examples, because where did the demotivational speech come from? Joseph, his brothers, and even his dad, right? No. And then Noah, you know, building the ark. They like, what? You know, what you doing? You know? Think about Moses freeing the Israelites from the promised land. Like, you know, this is what he's been called to do. But people are like, what? Pharaoh ain't gonna let some people go. I mean, so throughout the whole thing, David and Goliath, we talked about that.
I was just thinking about David.
Yeah.
The whole time, all the people, they weren't willing to step into that ring, but they were telling him why he wasn't qualified to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But he had to trust God's spirit and say, no, I've been fighting bears. I've been fighting lions. I think I could do this. You know, they didn't even know that. They didn't know how qualified he actually was. And that's, I think, so just kind of tying everything together, because I know we're probably getting close to that time. I think that's one of the main things as far as like, you know, we started talking about the DE-motivational speech, but really the overarching premise we want everyone to hear is how to get truly motivated for your true calling. And sometimes you have to go through some demotivation. You have to go through some things like, man, I really thought this was for me. But God keeps showing me this is not for me. And I don't want it bad enough to keep going. Okay, but what do you want bad enough to where no matter what obstacle comes in your arena, you're saying, you know what, we're going to go around this, we're going to go to the side of it, or we're going through it. It is what it is, because I love it that much to where I'm going to make this thing happen. And that's where you find your sweet spot.
Yeah, true.
I think we have another topic in that, and I think it's around the subject of like when to pivot and when to just stop, because like some things just ain't for you, you know. And it's important to kind of be able to see like, oh, okay, these are the variables that are just all not in my favor. Sometimes you need to just push forward, but other times it's like there's a reason why, you know. So I'm glad that you brought that up, fellas. We are at that point in time where we
get here so quick though.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I was thinking that we was going to talk about a few more things in this conversation, but we already at the time.
We here now.
So if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We definitely appreciate it. Like this, send it to somebody who needs to get that conversation. Maybe this will help you have the conversation with them. Send this first, have them watch it, and then present the reality to them. Look at that. Boom.
Yeah.
And also too, I know you already gave me a little bit about the Men 2.0. Cool. Don't forget about that. It's in the description still.
Well, we talk about Freedom of Christ real quick. Come check us out for service on Sunday, 11:30 on Sundays, in-person service, 28202 Franklin Road in Southfield. And we do have online service as well, too. You can check us out on YouTube and Facebook as well for that. But come in person if you're in Southfield. We'd love to see you.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we here, we support each other, obviously. So today I'm repping the Men 2.0 brand. But the WCI brand, we have some things going on also. Come check out the Instagram at Detroit Investor _WCI. You'll see some of the merch that we have available. The Rebuilding Detroit, one house at a time. The Outlasting all obstacles with the lion logo. So we ultimately just want to provide things for like-minded individuals that are walking the same walk that we're walking.
Also, too, I'm going to take a little bit of a different spin today. I want to talk about a company that is here in Michigan. If you are here in Michigan, you run a business and you need photography, videography, any sort of creative service. I know a team called Mitchbrook Multimedia Production Company. They do a phenomenal job. They've worked with over 300 businesses here in the Metro Detroit and Detroit area, and they've been in business for over 8 years now. 5-star rating on Google. They do a phenomenal job. They are known for their professionalism and their quality. So if you are looking for photography or videography, I definitely highly recommend that you go ahead and talk to these people. Information is below. With that, all hearts and minds
Clear.
We will see y'all next week. Thank you for tuning in. Peace.